A Quiet Place Part 2. Let's get into it. Well, John Krasinski is the guy from The Office. You know him from there. Him and his wife, Emily Blunt, wrote and produced this film called A Quiet Place. The first one was amazing. Screen Thing fans, this is something. The second one, I like the fact they went back to kind of do a prequel like, where they kind of tell the story of what happened and how they arrived at the point. Now, in the first Quiet Place, it takes place right in the town they grew up in and they lived. We didn't know that until we saw part 2, that this was a town that they lived in, and that was their home. Like, that was their house. This was the home they lived in, and that was the town, like, they go to shop, and everyone knew each other. And you got to see, like, their friends, their families, and you got to see what happened immediately after that asteroid hit, or what looked like an asteroid, and how fast things immediately, and this was happening around the world. And they started to realize people were actively moving towards sound and trying to stop sound from moving, so that was a lot of intense moments, because you remember part 1, they had the kid and he was in the store and he saw that rocket and he wanted it, and you see this, they start right off in that store, but this time everything was normal, just another day in that store, and you see the rocket and everything there. Then you kind of cut back to where it was, and they start off immediately where the first movie ended. Now, what I didn't understand was that there's normally 3 in the area that they had tracked. That's what made A Quiet Place Part 1 more interesting. They were soldiers. Some of these alien things, or whatever they are, they were like drones. And I was like, man, it would kind of remind you of Stranger Things, the first one. And this one was really Stranger Things. This is Stranger Things Season 2. So, what's up, Chris? New Chris? Oh, yeah, I told you we just getting started on LeBron. This is just the beginning, man. It's finna get a lot worse for him. The whole team. Now you started to see the world had changed, because we had not seen the outside world. We didn't know how many people were alive, how many people were gone. Most people, like they decided, they said in part 1, most people were living underground. They went underground to live, and they were staying safe that way. But because of the flooding and everything that happened in their house was no longer livable. Now, remember, she has a small infant child. So this baby is going to cry eventually. It's a baby. He doesn't know what's going on. So, the daughter, at the end of part 1, which you guys should have seen it, this is spoiler loaded. At the end of part 1, yeah, I know, exactly. So at the end of part 1, they go in there and they put this earpiece she has, this frequency, put it towards a speaker, and it irritates them. Now, if you remember the newspapers that they had in there, once they said that they are attracted by sound, that should tell you right away that sound attracts them, sound against them. The U.S. government has all the smartest people in the world there. And you mean to tell me no one in the government had thought about that? If anybody was sensitive to sound, they would have used a sonic sound wave to disrupt them, and they could have blown their heads up with it. They could have used a sonic missile to disrupt them. There is no way, shape, or form that would have happened. That they wouldn't have thought about that if they already had it in a newspaper that was released. In an alert. Now, they decide to travel and journey out past their safe zones. They don't have shoes. And the son gets his leg caught in like this little sling thing, and it kind of breaks or whatever. He gets caught in a trap, like a bear trap. So his leg has made him useless. And now one of these things are coming after them because he's screaming. Now they use this microphone thing and they creep up and shoot him in the head. Then there's another one just right by each other. So I'm thinking that they were going to be, basically staying in the house, bringing all the aliens there and taking them down. But they journey out of the house in order for this to happen. But I guess you can't have a sequel without it. Now it comes to find out that the person that brings to their home happens to be the same guy that we saw from the prequels, flashback scene rather, who was their best friend, was the father's best friend, and he lost his whole family, and he wished there was something he could do. His wife died, his son, he lost his son to this alien thing, and he felt like there was nothing he could do to save them, and now this is sort of like retribution for him. This is something that he could actually do. So the daughter decides to go on a mission by herself because she's figured it out that the song is a code telling people about the coordinates and how to get to this island where she could save the people on this island. So she goes on a mission. She goes to a train, and she's got to try to use her sound projection thing with her microphone box and use that and try to shoot him at the same time, which wasn't working. And she was about to be perished before the guy shows up and saves her. And now those two are on the mission, and everybody else is basically cut out of the movie. Now they keep locking themselves into this vault where there's no oxygen almost, because the son is an idiot. She told him to watch the kid. He couldn't do that for 10 minutes. He's got one leg and wants to crawl out to see what's going on for no reason, and then just go back in there and put the kid on the oxygen like oxygen is just something to do so he can listen to music. I'm like, dude, this isn't the time nor the place. She's told you what to do. Be a man, take care of the baby. Now, they were foolish for starting the family with all of this going on. I don't understand what you mean. How come the movie didn't go back to the present time? Because this wasn't a prequel movie. They just showed you in the beginning what was happening and what led to that whole breakup and all of the thing there when the aliens get loose. Then they cut back to the original point, the original ending of part one, where they had to leave the house. Here's where the movie gets lost. It turns into two different movies. They go on a mission now. Emily Blunt, and she's basically cut in, like there's an alien in there, and so people out a place where they can come and chill because you learn this. Pops up where he shouldn't be, and then all hell breaks loose. So I get a movie 2.5 out of 4 stars. It loses much more of the togetherness, the family, the connection. It turns more into a suspense movie with jump scares, and it's kind of ridiculous at points. But especially going to the doggone tower, and then the brother just decides, I'm not going to close this door. I'm going to leave this gate open, and now I want to go back for my family. I think because he the monster fell off of a car, that he must be gone. I'm going to go back for my family. And then, of course, he gets dragged under there and ripped it to pieces. Because that's what black people do. We just get really stupid at the surviving all of this time, and then we get to the doggone to the end almost, and we just realize, well, we don't need the black guy in the scene no more. He's no longer needed. What do we have him there for? Makes no sense. Of course, it lost the connection, the family, the part that made it mean something. They lost that quality, like the like losing the child, to show you the seriousness of it early when they lost their child, and they couldn't really do nothing to go after the kid. He was too young to understand or get it, the seriousness of what was happening. That grabbed you into the movie right away. I loved it. I clapped. Because one, I couldn't stand that kid. And already 10 seconds, I was like so happy he was out of the movie. Because if I'd have had to deal with him through the whole movie, and the daughter felt the guilt because she gave him the batteries. So the guilt and all this stuff. So she felt the father hated her because of it, because she did that. And, he didn't feel that way. But because she felt like that, and to see that connection at the end when he was giving her the sign telling her, I have always loved you. She didn't know, because she always felt that guilt because they never really talked about what happened. And he sacrifices himself to save his children. Well, it wasn't as good as the first. The first one was to get some money. The second one was, the first one was to get the award, the attentions and everything else. This one was to get the bag. And that's what they did. They went and got the bag. Well, the thing is this. The movie was a money grab. They had to do a sequel so that they can get their money. Because now, you got to remember, this is a husband and wife film that they wrote it and produced it. This was a small project that ended up being a big hit for them. And now John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, his wife, he's the director. So him directing himself, now and now that the scale was a little bit more bigger, you start seeing some of the mistakes that were made in the whole direction of what was happening and transpiring. So from that standpoint, I can see it. Well, they couldn't drown the baby, but the thing is, the baby brings the suspense element to it, because that baby gonna be messed up with all that oxygen it's breathing. But now, what's gonna happen now? Because now, if people realize that they could use sound to beat them, they're separated by so many miles away from each other. There's limited food. If there's a part 3, which is going to be, because you got to continuously get money, this is going to bring the bag. Where are they going to go with it? Because basically, they just keep expanding to where there's just so many more of them. All they got to do is keep making noise. And when they come, use the little sound thing and then blow their head off. Load up some more shells, and when another one comes, run that. This was the way I thought part 1 ended. But they just left it at, she just killed one. Because remember, they were all like coming towards the house. And she was making the sounds and was going to blow their heads off. But we didn't get that. So I gotta go. It's been great. I gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. It's watchable, but after you watch it the first time, you don't care if you really watch this again. It's not like the first one. I'm out.